guys, Jay here. Welcome to Eons of Battle. I have quite a little collection of miniatures that Games Workshop no longer supports. It's probably one of the most annoying things that Games Workshop does is discontinue miniatures. They kind of have two ways of doing this. Number one, they stop selling it, which I kind of feel like is fair enough. And number two is they don't support it in terms of rules anymore, which I feel like is super, super annoying. Earlier this year in February, I finished my two beautiful, prized Tantaluses. Dark Eldar Tantalus, our version of a land raider. These guys are beautiful and big and Forge World and ridiculous. And randomly, Games Workshop just took them out of the index. Dark Eldar didn't get a new codex, we didn't get any new miniatures, we just got no more Tantalus. And it's really, really annoying. I feel like if Games Workshop decides to not sell something anymore, and then when they come out with a new codex or a new edition, they drop it from the game, I kind of feel like that's fair enough because everything is up in the air. I don't know what I'm gonna be taking in my lists. I'm gonna be rearranging some things, probably buying some new things. I think it's fair if they decide to not support something that they've sold since 2011. But just to randomly in February, copy and delete something out of the index that was perfectly fine. Nobody was taking these. They weren't overpowered. They weren't causing any problems in game. And they still sell it on the web store. I looked it up this morning. You can still buy the Tantalus from the US Games Workshop and it'll show up at your door and you can put it together and you can paint it, but you can't take it in a competitive Warhammer event. Obviously, uncompetitive, you can do whatever you want. I have taken both of these suckers in a game and they gloriously won me the game. They absolutely crushed Scott the Miniature Maniac and his Dark Eldar. I love the Tantalus. They feel so good in a Dark Eldar army because they actually have some survivability and a somewhat okay level of like save characteristic and wound characteristic, but according to the current rules as written, you cannot take these in competitive 40k events. And a lot of the people who play at my local shop, they're kind of like 40k sharks. So I don't necessarily want to bring legend stuff because, they're test prepping for tournaments. And these guys are meant now for friendly games and for just looking pretty on the shelf. And boy, do they ever look pretty on the shelf. Look at those sails. These guys are like a foot long and a foot tall. And it's really hard to actually store these, but really sad that in February, these are no longer in the game. A similar thing happened with this lovely miniature, the Dorito Dreadnot, the Doritos Locos Dreadnot. I built this sucker 2 weeks before Warhammer 40,000 10th edition. In 9th edition, you used to be allowed to bring 30k Space Marine units in your army. And so I built this guy, I kit bashed them together. I bought a very expensive Forge World Doritos Dreadnot chassis. And then I bought some Sentinels to kit bash these legs. I absolutely love this sucker. And honestly, I could take him in game because really he's pretty much exactly a Ballistus Dreadnought. If he had the las cannon arms, he would be a little bit closer to a Ballistus Dreadnought. Right now he has the autocannon arms and then the giant missile launcher on top. But this miniature is so gorgeous and so beautiful, and it's never gotten to be used in a game. I just need to go ahead and snap this guy off his base and put him on a 100mm base so that I can use him as a Ballistus Dreadnought, because he does need to see some tabletop time. But this is another instance of Games Workshop snatching it out of my hands and not letting me have it in my army lists. Another miniature that had a similar treatment is Captain Badrock. I have a heavily converted Captain Badrock for my orc army. I gave him a head swap and a weapon swap. This guy used to attach to flash git squads and make them actually good. He no longer exists in the game, which is really sad because he's a really fun character and he pops up fairly frequently in orc lore. I was reading the book Brutal Cunning and Captain Badrock shows up at the end of that book. Just as a little cameo, and it's really, really fun. The orcs do not like Captain Badrock because he steals all of their teeth, but he's no longer in the game. And it's kind of confusing because Games Workshop they love to come out with characters. And so why not come out with a character model for Badrock. I feel like Badrock will come back to Warhammer 40,000, but you can no longer get this lovely Finecast mini. I don't even remember if this guy was ever available as a metal mini. He might have existed only in that weird period of time where they were making some actually like made to be Finecast miniatures, but goodbye, Captain Badrock. Now the saving grace for Captain Badrock is an orc is an orc is an orc is an orc. He's kind of just a war boss. He's a big tall orc with a big gun and a big weapon. He works just fine as a war boss, so I'll continue to take him in games of 40k, but he can no longer be attached to flash gits and make their guns just a little bit more accurate. One model that I was shocked went away is the, what is this called? The Ballistar, or the Celestar Ballista. A whole bunch of Stormcast Eternal models vanished. Games Workshop is slowly updating the Stormcast. The original big, chunky, basically Space Marine Stormcast are gone, replaced with the somewhat sleeker, shinier, newer Stormcast. I feel like they still haven't nailed the look of the Stormcast. In my opinion, since the Stormcast are the greatest heroes of the mortal realms, plucked from the jaws of death and inducted into Sigmar's army, they should represent all of the different races and factions in Age of Sigmar, not just humans. I think it would be pretty cool to see like a Sylvaneth Tree Lord in the golden armor, or even like a little Skaven clan rat in the armor. I think that would look really cool and make the Stormcast like something really interesting and special and unique. But right now they're kind of just gold Space Marines. They're Custodes, but for Age of Sigmar. And the Ballista is gone. I played one singular game with this sucker, and I think it probably missed all of its shots, but it's kind of a neat little thing. And I'll have to turn this into some terrain at some point. Ooh, I wonder if I can get, I probably missed it. I was wondering if I could get these cheap on eBay, because it would actually make for some really nice terrain pieces, but it's been a bit. It's been a minute since they got rid of all the Stormcast units, so I bet a lot of those old models got snagged up. But speaking of old models getting snagged up, I have a little trio of Sentinels. One of the reasons I got into the Genestealer cult is because it gave me a great opportunity to have Sentinels. I love the Sentinels. They're basically the ATSTs from Star Wars, or more realistically, they're the ATPTs from Star Wars. These guys are lovely. I love the old miniatures. The new one is fine. It's just kind of 30% bigger, but other than that, it's about the same. But I like the tininess. These guys are actually pretty much in scale. Usually 40k vehicles are about 50% too small, but it makes them better gaming pieces. I feel like the Sentinels are actually pretty close to the actual size they should be, and then they scaled them up a little bit with the new Sentinel model. But I love the old Sentinels, and they're not quite discontinued, but Games Workshop changed the way you can take these in a Genestealer cult army. Previously, you just bought them for your list, but now you have to play one specific detachment that is built around the Genestealer cult and the Imperial Guard working together. It's not a very exciting detachment. You don't get access to some of the most fun shenanigans that the Genestealer cult have available, and only in that detachment are you allowed to bring the Imperial Guard units. Can't have Chimeras, you can't have Sentinels, and so these guys are kind of dead for me. I'll probably just end up selling them to Sean because he's got an Imperial Guard army, and you can always use some more Sentinels. I think he has 6. He has 5 or 6, so he could definitely use some more. And hopefully, if he takes enough Sentinels, then I'll bring fewer Leman Russes, because I don't want to keep fighting Leman Russ Demolishers forever and ever and ever. And now that I can't have Sentinels in my Genestealer cult army, I feel even like less excited to play my Genestealer cult. If I might do like an Oops All Aberrant thing. Although I also kind of have problems with the Aberrant models because I love how they look, but in game, they're like ridiculously chonky toughness 6, like mega muscle guys. But the miniatures are just barely taller than a regular guardsman. And so it feels really, really silly that these tiny little guys are Terminator equivalents, but their miniatures aren't really Terminator equivalents. I don't know, there's something funky with the Genestealer cult. Those are all of the miniatures that Games Workshop stole from me that I really wanted to play with, or I was actively playing with in game, and now they're kind of not a part of the game anymore. But I also have a fair few miniatures that are like dancing on the knife's edge of will they continue to be in the game Warhammer 40,000 or not. One of the most recent additions to my collection is this little Locust Lord. Now, Locust Lord is kind of a new datasheet. It used to just be Destroyer Lord, but now Games Workshop has come out with a whole bunch of new Destroyer type units. And so Locust Lord is just a more specific name given to this unit, and it's in the current Necron Codex. So realistically, it is safe from getting squatted, but who knows what 11th edition Warhammer is going to bring. I really, really like this guy. I've been staring at this guy for a decade in the old 5th edition and every single copy of the Necron Codex that's ever been made. This guy is glorious. Mine is converted and kit bashed from the Heavy Destroyer kit, or the Locust Heavy Destroyer kit. And he's really good. He can carry a Resurrection Orb. He's got a War Scythe. He's really, really good. But for some reason, Games Workshop doesn't make a model for this. They made the Necron Lord with Transdimensional Shroud, which is a new miniature. It's kind of cool and interesting, and it can teleport one squad of like Necron warriors. But why make a brand spanking new miniature when you don't sell this guy? He's in the book, but you don't sell it. Like, what are the Necrons? Like, the Necrons are one of the most popular things in 40K. You know, with Dark Eldar, half of the codex or half of the index is not available to purchase from Games Workshop. But I feel like Locust Lord should be available. And the fact that it's not available to purchase makes me a little nervous that this sucker is gonna go to Legends one of these days. And speaking of another unit that I'm a little worried will go to Legends is Ancient in Terminator armor. This was a really weird inclusion in the Space Marine Codex because it hasn't really ever existed. There's one miniature, there's one generic Space Marine with a banner that was sold in Space Marine Heroes Series 2, I think only in Japan. And that is the picture that is in the Warhammer app. If you add Terminator Ancient to your army, that's the miniature that Games Workshop has. There also was a certain amount of time where Games Workshop sold a Blood Angels Terminator kit, and then that one was carrying a Blood Angels banner. And so I guess that is also an option for Space Marine Ancient. And then I guess Grey Knights, there's a Grey Knight Terminator that's carrying a banner, but that one is pretty specifically Grey Knights. So it's just kind of like a weird invented unit from Games Workshop, which they don't really do anymore, but it's really good. This guy is awesome. If your Terminator squad is ever brought below its starting strength, then I think they get like +1 to hit. And if they're brought below half, they get +1 to wound, which is really, really good for Terminators because they're big and tanky. And so you probably do spend some of the game in both of those brackets. So I really do like Ancient and Terminator armor. And I've kit bashed this custom little Ancient, and I really, really love him. He's got Tannheiser's Bones, the enhancement that can give your 6-up feel no pain and turn it into a 5-up feel no pain. This guy's really, really cool. And I love that Games Workshop, like, just the rules writers decided to give us this opportunity to have such a unit in game. But I don't have high hopes for like 11th edition keeping this unit around. Although it's not that big a deal because it's just a Terminator. And so if this guy is no longer a specific character unit, he can just be a cool looking Terminator to add into any squad. Another unit that I am very terrified for is my beloved Centurion warsuits. Centurions are probably my favorite Space Marine unit. I have 6 of them lovingly kit bashed and converted to make their proportions just a little bit better. I've taken these guys in so many games and they have never ever performed. They're not very good. There's something to the Assault Centurion, especially because they just got cheaper in game, but it's a little bit rough. They have the infantry keyword, which is good for a combat unit, but they also don't have that many wounds, and so their damage potential drops really, really quickly once they start losing miniatures. And it's easy for them to start losing miniatures with their movement 4, and they're usually kind of foot slogging up the board, or even if you deep strike them, it's hard to get them into a great position to actually make a charge. But when they do make a charge, and they get in there with their siege drills that have sustained hits 2. Oh, I've never rolled so few 6s as when I have sustained hits 2 on my data sheet. I love the Centurions. I have high hopes. I have high hopes that Centurions aren't going to get squatted because they're somewhat popular. I mean, I love them. And Even though this is an old squatty Space Marine kit, it's hard to tell because the Space Marine is so well hidden in that armor that I feel like it could just as easily be a Primaris Space Marine inside of that armor as an old squatty, like Mark 7 armor under there. So I'm not terrified that the Centurions are going away, but it does make me a little bit nervous. I have some other things that no longer exist in the world of Warhammer 40k, but some of them I've gotten a little bit lucky. I had a whole bunch of scouts with sniper rifles, and scouts with sniper rifles aren't really a thing anymore. You used to be able to take them as a full squad of scouts with the sniper rifles. Now you can take one scout with a sniper rifle in a squad of scouts, but that's okay because I've actually kit bashed these to be an Eliminator squad. Eliminators are a fun little unit of sniper Space Marines, and they stand on 40mm bases. And so I was able to kit bash 2 scouts standing on a 40mm base, and with 2 guys on a base, it pretty much matches the size and silhouette of one Primaris Eliminator. So I was able to resurrect these guys from the dead so that they can keep on crusading with the rest of my Space Marine force. And speaking of resurrecting miniatures from the dead, my greater bloat drones of Nurgle. These guys, I think, still exist in, well, no, they don't exist in 30k. These guys were invented during the Badab War era of Forge World, and I think you can still buy them. They're tricky to find on the Games Workshop web store. The last time I looked them up, you actually couldn't find them in any of the menus. You actually had to search out Greater Blight Drone, or Greater Plague Drone of Nurgle specifically to get them to come up. But it's a really, really fun, disgusting shrimp unit. And so these guys they have Legends rules right now, but I put them on 60mm bases, and they're about the right size and shape to be, Myphetic Bloat drones. And so that's just what I'm gonna run them as in my games of Warhammer 40,000. They don't have the flesh mower, which is kind of the thing that you want to equip your models with. And I was thinking about ways of potentially kit bashing the flesh mower, but I don't really mind not being perfectly WYSIWYG. I feel like maybe they can just bzz something with their little hover, or their little wings, their helicopter blades, or they can poop on the enemy. And that does all of the different damage that the flesh mower usually does in game. I love these guys. I think that they're awesome, and they will continue to be in my army forever because the Myphetic Bloat drone ain't going anywhere. And so even though these guys are technically not portraying the Greater Blight Drone of Nurgle, they are still coming in my games of Warhammer 40,000. These guys and the scouts, I think, are the best case scenario for Warhammer 40,000 minis. No matter what the rules say, no matter what happens in the world of Warhammer 40,000, you can, if you're still able to take your miniatures in game and not just legendsing the old data sheets into the game, but actually turning them or kit bashing and converting them into a more modern unit, I think that is the best, because there's always some fun to be had bringing the old stuff into games of modern Warhammer 40,000. I have a bunch of things that I'm planning on doing, either kit bashing or converting or true scaling of some older Space Marine kits. I do kind of want to get more Centurion warsuits. I don't need more than 6, but it'd be cool. Almost as cool as EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find our merch, like the Nick and Jay dice, and we also have basing toppers. Also, it is the best way to support us doing what we do with a membership. Each month, members get a credit they can use on our new monthly terrain packs or any previous pack we have ever made. This May, we're delving back into the Hungry Maw with the Infested Colony, a world recently ravaged by the chitinous teeth and claws of the Endless Swarm. A series of ruined buildings crumbling under the weight of hypercharged plant growth and impaled by alien limbs. And shipping containers that have been ripped to shreds or torn open from the inside out. These relics of an alien war are designed with competitive wargaming in mind and an eye for storytelling, matching perfectly with our previous alien hive colony. With this set, you can build a wargaming table dripping with alien atmosphere. Let me know in the comments below, what are some miniatures that Games Workshop ripped from your cold, dead hands? I'm still sad about the Tantaluses. I mean, I'm gonna take them in the occasional Apocalypse game or friendly local game store game, but it is sad that as soon as I got them built, they're just randomly gone from the game. I'd love to bring the Tantaluses in every game of 40k, but not at tournaments. Thanks for watching.